Hello and welcome to another episode of Driven by Doing. Today we have Michelle Blanchet from joining us from Switzerland. Michelle, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely. So Michelle is the co-founder for PBL on the go, and she also co-founded Educators Lab. And today we are going to learn about her story and her journey, how she was able to create all these different tools to help students, teachers, and learn about what are the things that she's also working towards in her career. So, Michelle, let's begin learning about your story. So, let us talk about how your journey in the education space began. So, I know you went to Montclair State University and you graduated. So, let's begin from there and walk us through that step by step to how you got to where you're today.
Yeah, I wouldn't, so I definitely wouldn't start there. I would say I actually never wanted to teach because when
Okay.
I was younger, my mother was a teacher. And since I was at the same school she was at, she would make me stay after school every day. So I would be at school, an hour to a few hours longer than all the other kids. And I was like, this is just the worst. So I really had no desire to go into teaching at all. When I went into college, I actually started, and actually my degree is in anthropology. I had no intentions of teaching, and it was actually during a summer internship in DC. We were supposed to be kind of running these camps, but they were like, I want to say 8 to 10 hours, and there was a 4 hour academic portion, and they couldn't get, enough teachers in the building. So they ended up letting me do it. And I loved it. And so it was at that moment where I really knew I wanted to teach. I was totally bought in. And then from there, that's kind of when I would say I became a teacher.
That's awesome. So now that you are fascinated to teach, how did you get your first opportunity? So once you got your first opportunity, like what did you learn from that experience?
Sure. So I actually started teaching in Virginia. Great experience, love the kids, but I struggled. I became demoralized very quickly just because I was teaching civics and economics. Another year, I was teaching ancient world history. And especially the ancient world history course, it was very irrelevant. I had kids that just needed totally different things. And I'm in here trying to teach them the Punic Wars. And Virginia has this standards of learning. It's very content driven, not skills focused at all. And I remember already feeling disgruntled because very irrelevant curriculum. And you're being kind of told to force feed the kids this stuff so they can pass this SOL exam. That's what it's called. And for me, it wasn't at all giving the kids what they need. I also don't find that to be the purpose of social studies. That's your class to really hone in on critical thinking and communication and diving into really understanding how the world works, its patterns, its people, everything, making those connections. So I was already struggling. And then at the same time, when I saw where we could improve, when we really could do pretty cool stuff with our students, or try to frame the curriculum in a new way, like for instance do a PBL project or something like that to really help them give the skills, there was never any time to do it. I felt like anytime we had meetings or anytime there was professional learning, it was always about adding more on our plates. Our district was really into this initiative to get more data on the kids, which was all about improving their test scores. And I remember just being completely disgruntled because that's not what I went into teaching for. And I feel like a lot of teachers would vouch for me on this, where I just talked about this amazing experience I had. And the reason the experience was great was because I was connecting with students. I felt like I was making a difference in their lives. It's a job that has a lot of meaning and gives you a lot of purpose. When you get into the role and all of a sudden you found out you're not able to do what you came in there for, you can get disheartened. And I would say that kind of sentiment, and also seeing some of those pain points, is what sparked the rest of my journey.
So now that you founded that some of the challenges that you just mentioned to us, and now you started your entrepreneurial journey. So is that the time when you kind of like started thinking like, how can we solve these problems? That is like, no, it's not just in one school, but like across the board. So tell us about like the taking that leap of faith into the entrepreneurial journey and then started building the educators lab. Is that when you started building educators lab?
No, I would say I was a bit more roundabout than that. So I would say from there, I knew what I was doing wasn't so teaching wasn't what I thought. So I was just kind of on a quest to learn more. So I actually ended up doing a master's in Spain. I had always wanted to learn Spanish, so I was excited to kind of have this cultural experience and get to learn Spanish. It was in international relations. That's something I love. And mind you, I teach social studies, so my certificates in social studies, but I always love learning about anything like this. So international relations was fantastic. While I was there, there was a social responsibility forum, and I ended up joining it so that I could help run it. And that is what kind of introduced me to the world of social entrepreneurship. And so then this social entrepreneurship whole world was just amazing to me because for every problem out there, it seemed like there was somebody out there trying to solve it. And that's something I really liked. And what was so great is that, there was kind of no ownership over the movement. It was just people getting together and using whatever tools they had to figure out, okay, how do we turn this challenge into an opportunity? What do we do about this? And I thought this was fantastic, right? Because before I was noticing some of these pain points, but I didn't know what to do about it. So I felt like kind of being introduced into this world of social innovation was also exposing me to like to methodologies and to mindsets that would actually help me to figure out, what to do with some of the challenges I was facing so I could get proactive. So I would say that was kind of more the introduction of just my introduction into the entrepreneurial world, if you will.
Now that you got that experience of like social innovation, social entrepreneurship, what did you do next? Like, did you take the problems that you have seen in the space and then like started wondering or like researching more into the social entrepreneurship? Like, how can we solve this with this the skill set that you have developed in the social innovation space?
Yeah, so yeah, it's funny because it's never so straightforward, right? So from Spain, we actually moved to Switzerland. So then all of a sudden I was in another new country, another new language, a whole everything. So I actually started teaching again at an international school. And yeah, 'cause I still didn't speak French yet. So the opportunity arose. So I was excited to do that. And while I was there, though, it was kind of good because uh, like the challenge persists everywhere, right? So it was kind of good to go back into teaching because it was like a refresher. It was, being on the ground, doing your field work of, okay, this idea is still there, but what am I going to do about it? So I taught for a few more years, and then it was actually on my maternity leave. And while I was teaching, I was getting more involved in this social entrepreneurship space. So I joined these networks actually. One's called Sandbox, and it's like a global group of people under 30, and that group's actually pretty awesome. Literally, if you go anywhere in the world right now, you could go on your Facebook and say, who's got a couch for me, and somebody does. And they're just all people that tend to be entrepreneurial, and they're just doing stuff. And there was a similar group. It was the World Economic Forum Global Shapers, and again, it's a similar group surrounded by like-minded people. Ashoka was just opening up. I think it's French-speaking part here, so I connected with them. Impact Hub was growing here, so it was kind of, I came to Switzerland right as like this movement was rising here, so it was really easy to connect and network with like-minded people. So I would say, like, yeah, for a few years I was kind of learning about both. I was watching how you do like this business model canvas workshops. I was learning all about design thinking, lean mindset, and that was interesting. But yeah, it wasn't actually until I was on maternity leave. And here it's for Europe, it's like the least generous maternity leave compared to the US. It's fantastic. But while I was on that gave me an opportunity to really start working on some of these ideas. So that's when we started the Educators Lab. And at the time, we didn't know like how it would evolve, but the goal was to try to give workshops and trainings that enabled teachers to feel empowered to work on their own ideas to improve teaching and learning. And That's kind of just got the ball rolling, and we've been going from there.
That is amazing. And now that you started your journey, you got that first opportunity. And Now, coming to your, you also gave a TEDx talk on the low cost and high impact way to change education. So you talked about disengagement and the lack of innovation, especially in the teaching, training teachers. So tell us a little bit more about this space and what are some of the challenges that you have seen, and how I think at least in the last 3 4 years, did you see any ways that a lot of organizations are helping teachers to train in this some of these innovative ways to help students?
Yeah, so I would say, where do I start with that one? So teaching is one of those interesting things because everyone's sat in the classroom for the most part, so they think they understand what teaching is, but it's actually not that easy. So everyone's got an opinion on education, and so teachers. And not everywhere, but in some countries they're just less trusted. And when I say trust, I mean we tend to micromanage, like we mandate the curriculum, we mandate the pedagogy, we have to be using this because there's kind of this fallacy that teachers are bad. And people can argue with me with that, but I will always say I haven't met all of these bad teachers. I mean, most teachers I meet are fantastic and are in the classroom for the right reasons. And I also have to say too, if you find this teacher that is so bad, well, how did they get there in the first place? So that usually is a systemic problem. Either you're not paying people enough or you're not just attracting talent. So in any case, yeah, so what we've noticed is like being in, or what I noticed in this kind of social entrepreneurship space is a lot of the things people are talking about is, okay, what are the global problems we have right now? Like we have this fourth industrial revolution. What does the future of work look like? How do we prepare kids for this work? What about sustainability, climate change? The list goes on, right? How do we equip kids with skills? And I'm hearing all this and it's fantastic. I love these discussions. And I'm thinking, why are we not, like, if you go talk, and this is in the US especially, like if I go talk to the average teacher, they're not hearing about this. Like this is not the normal conversation. Like their conversations aren't overlapping with these conversations. So, sometimes you'll go to these organizations or talk to nonprofits, it's like, oh, well, we need to be doing this and this and this. And it's very forward thinking. Whereas usually the teachers, when they're talking about problems, they're actually putting out fires because they're like, well, they wanted to implement this idea, but they don't understand that the kids, for instance, they're coming in hungry. They can't learn if they're coming in hungry. So I'm there right now. How do you support me? And so for me, it just made sense to start thinking about, okay, well, what does teacher training actually need to look like? If you look at most universities at their teacher program, the courses are archaic. I mean, it's something on classroom management, trying to make sure you master your content. If everyone's talking about skills and this mindset, where are these classes? Like, how are we equipping teachers with this mentality? And that's the other thing too, is if you have a teacher in the classroom, you need to trust them. So one thing we've also noticed going to schools is, everyone knows what the problems are in the school. And usually if you start talking to teachers, they'll tell you what should be done. But it's not, because no one's empowering them to actually solve those challenges. So for us, it just kind of made sense. So in the US, usually you need a certain amount of continuing education units or recertification hours to keep your license. So, we started wondering, how do we use that space? How do we give teachers credit for innovating? Because we would be exposing them to new skills and mindsets like entrepreneurial thinking at the same time that they're solving problems. And solving problems equates to better student outcomes, because we know how important a good teacher is. And so, yeah, and I mean, I can go on and on about this all day, but it's just, that's kind of where we're at. And I think that might even be the other thing is, I think we're at a point too where we need to rethink even calling people teachers, because right now, teacher has there's this mindset of like person in front and everybody the person in front, everybody next to them just listening. And that's not what teachers do anymore, right? They're facilitators, they're designers, they're mentors, they're coaches. Like we need them to have a very different skill set to be able to equip our students. And so yeah, that's what we've been trying to work with. And organizations know, like they know that it's outdated. They know that sometimes they just go in and hire a presenter and lecture about stuff. Like they know that it's not good pedagogy. They know they're not engaging the teachers. The implementation's a big thing. Like they can get people all fired up, but then there's no follow through to make sure any of that goes actually back to the classroom. So I do think a lot of organizations are very aware that there's a gap. I just think it's that overwhelming question of what do you do about it? So.
So what are the simple steps like a lot of these organizations can actually take, Michelle? We talked about giving the necessary tools and empowering teachers. And do you think at a high level, like is there any? Sorry about the background. So what are the tools that you would recommend teachers or organizations who are involving teachers to empower them at that level? Like is it that why you created the startup teachers playbook as one of the tools and the resources to be able to like help teachers? And tell us more about the startup teachers playbook and what kind of tools that teachers are going to be equipped using this tool.
Sure. So, first things, I think organizations, I think the biggest thing they need to do is remember that they're working with adults. And sometimes, and this happens to everybody, I call it the curse of knowledge. So you're so worried about everybody getting this whole agenda, you like overload them, and then everyone doesn't remember anything you talked about because it was too much. And usually a lot of these organizations, they should be able to break it down to like, what is the core thing? Like if so and so goes home tonight, what's the one thing they're going to say that they picked up from your workshop or your conference, right? And if it's just one sentence, that's okay. But for a lot of these organizations, like, how do we bring social emotional learning in the classroom? That's all you need. Just the question, like just plant the seed. So I would say that's the biggest thing that, a lot of organizations kind of tend to overload. And I think it's great. You bring in some research, you bring in your findings. That's not bad or anything. But if you want people to actually be able to implement ideas, you need to involve them. And so you need to ask them the question that you're trying to get them to solve. And so I would say that's the biggest thing that a lot of organizations can do, to help engage teachers in their work. And then we created tools. So this for the startup teacher, what we wanted to do was, it's divided into 5 modules, and we just wanted to create and give some of the same type of tools that we see in the startup world, basically. So one tool is called the Educator Canvas. It's inspired by the business model canvas. It's literally just a series of guiding questions to help anybody implement a project. And we called it the Educator Canvas because we created exactly for this purpose. Like, how do you help give the support so somebody implements an idea? And I would say that's the other thing that organizations will get wrong. So, okay, let's say you bring it down, least common denominator question, right? Or so how might I bring social emotional learning into my classroom? Okay, they go over everything, and they let the teachers talk about it. The teachers get fired up. It's great. Um, the next thing is to actually give like some kind of structures so people do it. Because what we've noticed too is if you just say, okay, now go work on it, most people just go back and start grading and working on other things they have to do. So we specifically created this because it helps provide the structure through these guiding questions. And it's quick though, like establishing goals, making sure there's student voice. We try to tap into the empathy piece because that's really critical. Really thinking through logistics, and then through execution. Because the other thing we've noticed is when people write it down, when they set a date, they tend to do it. It goes from just talking about it to really having that game plan. And I would say that's probably the most powerful tool from the book that an organization could take to run a workshop. At the same time, though, we created this way because and I used to do this with organizations. We would just run open-ended workshops where teachers would talk about, okay, what's your biggest frustration in the classroom right now? Or what's something you've always wanted to try? Here's your chance. And then we would use this canvas, and teachers would work on that pain point or that idea. And we'd use the workshop time so that they could collaborate, so they could talk with other people about it. And then we would act as the coach, the mentor, to guide them through and help them think of, what's a good implementation strategy to resolve this, or to try something out. Because another thing I love is we always ask for risk takers in the classroom, but we don't let people take risks. There's a catch 22 in the education space where they want innovation, but then you need 5 years of data to back it up. Well, it's one or the other. We say this gives teachers permission to try, because we think they should be able to try, even if an idea doesn't work, it's going to get them closer to something that does. I hope I answered that.
Absolutely. I think thanks for sharing that great insights on especially the startups teachers playbook, Michelle, because we all learn about the lean startup methodologies, and we sometimes wonder, hey, this can be applied to here, and these different areas. And I think that's exactly what you have done very innovatively, trying to create an educator's canvas to be able to really equip them with the necessary tools to be able to help their students. And now coming into your new project, the PBL and Go, let us share about how did you come up with this idea, and how did you create this platform, and whom you're trying to now serve using the PBL on the Go.
So this platform work came to me. So we have a few people that we work with. They had just shown, this technology in a different space. They're like, "What do you think?" And to me, it looked like being able to design your own open IDO. And as a teacher, I was like, "This is great," because I am all about finding new ways that help promote not only entrepreneurial thinking but skill building. And I love things that are student driven. So what this platform does, it's kind of like a modified but automated design process. So any teacher or facilitator could create a challenge, any challenge. So um, there's just so many ways to use it. So you can create a challenge. I was trying to think of an example off the top of my head. That's why I paused for a minute. But you can create a challenge and you invite your participants. So let's say one is everyone's stuck at home and you ask your students to design a game using household objects about Earth Day or something like that. And so the kids would go through, it's self-paced. They can log in whenever they want through the phase, and they can just build off of each other's ideas. So the first phase is about, background knowledge, and this would give students an opportunity to do their own inquiry, to make, whether it's observations or, conducting interviews or just investigating further sources, but they can provide more background knowledge to help solve the challenge, if you will. Then there's a brainstorming section, and this is where you can, put ideas out, as all brainstorming sessions should be. Quantity is valued over quality. Just get it out there on what you could do. And I should add, what makes this cool is, so it's all online. So it kind of connects to the central theme. So kids or participants can constantly build off each other's ideas, give feedback, and kids are creative, right? So you can make a little video on TikTok, upload it, give feedback, because for kids, this is easy. You upload, you draw a picture, you take, you draw a picture, you take a picture of it, you upload it. That's fine, right? So I feel like kids are better at thinking creatively on how to do this. Then the next phase is pitching something. So this is your chance to build a prototype. I don't care, make a video, build something, again, take a picture, upload, and get feedback on it. And then there's a planning phase to give you time to iterate on that feedback. And then a final phase where you present or share your final work. So but it's all done online. I personally think it's a cool platform. I hope I did it justice describing it. But yes, I think it's the way we'd like learning to be, because learning should be active, even if it's remote.
Absolutely, Michelle. And I think, especially after pandemic, we have seen a lot of different tools that are equipping students to be able to get that similar experience. I mean, I'm sure a lot of offline activities are definitely are going to engage students, but especially in the space or the environment that we are in right now, everybody is looking for these kind of tools that can not only engage students but also help them build something so that they can learn throughout their the whole experience. So I mean, definitely that's a great tool that is going to help a lot of teachers and students for sure in the coming future as well. So what is the advice that you would give to teachers or even professionals who are starting their careers, who are wanting to become teachers and who are listening to this? and like let's say they just are just getting off their career, and what would you suggest or advise them to learn or like an experiment with their students? So any advice for them?
Yeah, I would say for teachers, hopefully they don't get discouraged. I think go to a place you're valued. I think it's very important you find a school where you have a good fit. And if your administration isn't good, get out of there. Because I think that's part of I mean, there's so many facets to this, but I think when you go where you feel you can grow and where you can do things and you feel like it's about the kids and you feel like you have your purpose and you're able to make that impact, and make your mark and be the type of teacher you want to be. I just think I would say that's my advice is just find your good fit, and then I would say as far as learning is concerned, I would love if design thinking was a part of everything. I just think especially that empathy piece is just so critical, to always designing not just good learning experiences, but also to solving problems in the classroom, because all of a sudden you'll recognize when something doesn't work out. It's not personal. It's just you need to tweak something. I would say that I would end on that.
That's amazing advice, Michelle. Thank you so much for sharing like a lot of great advice today and sharing your story. And where can people connect with you or learn more about your work, to learn more about your the Educators Lab or PBL on the go? So
Yeah, so you can always go to the educatorslab.com. We have pblonthego.com. My Twitter is at educatorslab. And then my email is michelle.blanchet at educatorslab.io. So we're always available. And yeah, I mean, that's just kind of our goal is to, just work with anybody and everybody who really just wants to help and elevate and empower teachers. And there's many ways to do that. So we go farther together. So yeah.
absolutely, it's been an amazing story, and thanks for all the work that you are doing in order to empower teachers and students around the world. So thanks a lot for your time today, and I really appreciate.
Thank you so much. I
Yeah,
really appreciate it.
thanks a lot, Michelle.